All right, Taylor, making some waves on the latest edition of Banter. Look, there seems to be some pretty serious resistance here from the players as far as this World Cup style tournament plan goes. Were you surprised from what you heard on your show?
First off, good to see you, Sebi. It's been a while, and you look healthy, and love the hairstyle. I not really surprised, to be honest with you, Sebi, because here's why. There's over 650 players in Major League Soccer. Is everyone going to agree with this? Absolutely not. What stood out to me is the mixed messaging. You heard Nedum Onuoha right there say about 70 days, and yet from my understanding, we're looking at the tournament starting early July, July 3rd, July 4th, and then if you go all the way to the final, it's August 6th, but obviously you're not going to go, everyone's not going to go to the final. Now, there's a discrepancy whether or not the quarantine means you go 2.5, 3 weeks to Orlando to train. Obviously, that's going to be determined by the state and health departments, which is above your and our pay grade. So I'm not really surprised that there's a little disruption within the players. I understand it to a certain extent, because if you've gone through 8 weeks of quarantine already, and now you're going to be asked to go 70 days like Nedum's saying, but Sebi, they're not going to be asked to go 70 days from everything I've asked behind the scenes from Major League Soccer officials and even from some other players. So I think the messaging needs to be cleared up along the players, but you have to respect it. This is a global pandemic. Not everyone's going to be on the same page. And if some players that have families and some players that have pregnant spouses, which I'm hearing there's a good number of those, you have to respect those people and those decisions. But that also doesn't mean those people speak for the collective group either.
Taylor, it seems like a lot of the guys, and you can totally understand this, just don't want to be away from their families in this time. Major League Soccer could look at other leagues. You see the Bundesliga, they're playing in home and away stadiums. Even in the United States, Major League Baseball, not official, but working towards a plan where they would be playing home and away games. It wouldn't be kind of one centralized location. You think a plan like that would be easier for the players to swallow?
Yes, I think even the players would be even a little bit more reasonable, Sebi, and look at it and say, why don't we do 4 bubble cities in their own regions and go there for 2, 3, 4 weeks at a time, play games every 4 days and get through that. I just think when you hear Alejandro Bedoya say partner up, that's what the players are talking about. They don't want to feel like they're being dictated to with this. And I'm not totally sure there is, but there is a little bit rush factor here because Major League Soccer looks at the window of opportunity. The longer it takes the NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball to get to a point to return to play, if Major League Soccer can get all their ducks in a row and also allow the players and staffs to train properly and get them fit, then there's an opportunity, Sebi, to be the only league in the United States that comes back. I understand that, but to your point, over the last 48 hours, New York, California, Texas, their governors have all come out and said you can play sports without fans. I think that's pushing the meter a little bit for the players saying, well, hold on a minute. If we give it a little bit more time, is that going to allow us to play 24, 26 regular season games, closed door studio games within our own stadiums? I think that possibility becomes more of a reality the longer they wait. I'm just not sure they want to wait and then look at August 1st start when you could look at that month of July and kick things off where you're the only league in the United States in the spotlight.
Taylor, I want to focus on something that Minnesota United's Ethan Finley said. Yes, he's a midfielder, but more importantly, maybe here he is a union rep. And he was talking about players' priorities for returning to play. Obviously, his first priority is health. That's not a surprise. His second priority, though, whatever competition they come back to, he wants it to be worthwhile. And he used that specific word, worthwhile, twice. If it's a tournament, whatever it is, how does MLS make whatever they're going to bring back worthwhile to these guys? Is it CONCACAF Champions League berth? Is it MLS Cup? Is it Supporter Shield? Is it straight cash, homie? I mean, is it money that's going to make the difference? Like, how do they make it worthwhile? What do these players want?
Sebi, it's a good point. I mean, I'd argue it's all of the above, right? Listen, you're not going to go all the way to Orlando, play at the minimum 5 games, and have those games not matter. So at the minimum, those games have to count towards your regular season standings. Now, the question I have is if you advance out of your group in this said tournament, do those games count towards the regular season, and then you play less games after that. That's where the clarity needs to be had for me. First and foremost, CONCACAF Champions League spot goes to the winner. Absolutely 100%, because obviously the other competitions within the United States right now, those are postponed or canceled, whether that's the Open Cup, and the Supporter Shield in the regular season standings is now got a little bit of an asterisk next to it, so why not move one of those CONCACAF Champions League spots and put it there? And quite honestly, Sebi, what if you said as a league, and I know this isn't going to happen, but I'm going to throw it out there, what if you said the winning team doesn't take a pay cut? Like, at some point, you do need to make it worthwhile for Ethan Finley and these players. And I understand what they're talking about. At the minimum, the games will go to regular season. We know that. But if you advance, what do those games mean? We have no idea. And if you don't advance, what do you do for the next 2.5, 3 weeks? There's been too much time off, Sebi. This is the problem I have. 6 months these players have been off over the last 8.5. And while we look at the Bundesliga and Serie A, La Liga, and even the EPL, those guys are at the end of the year. That's the difference. Now you've got to get these guys into fitness again. They've had too long of a break. That's what Ethan Finley and the players mean by worthwhile, and there's got to be a monetary value to it. I'm sorry, there just does, as long as those games still matter towards the regular season.
Yeah, we should also acknowledge there's a very public negotiation going on right now between MLS owners and the players about a potential salary cut. Hey, Taylor, one more bit of news. We got word yesterday that basically all the Major League Soccer and Liga MX business deals for the next year have been canceled. That includes what would have been the MLS Liga MX All-Star Game. When we come back, whenever Major League Soccer comes back, do you think in 2021 MLS still needs an All-Star Game? And I say that thinking back to 2018 when Zlatan Ibrahimovic basically said thanks but no thanks to a mid-season exhibition.
I want this All-Star Game, Sebi. You and I have spent numerous amount of hours together. I firmly believe in this kind of All-Star Game because there will be, and I don't care who tries to convince me otherwise, a competitive edge to Major League Soccer versus Liga MX. And obviously it's an All-Star Game and you're going to have the best of the best, but there's still going to be something to that game, especially the 4, 5, 6 years that they initially do this. Now, it may become a novelty later on, but those first 3 or 4 games, U.S. versus Mexico, MLS versus Liga MX, I think if you're going to do an All-Star Game, then absolutely. Sebi, I don't know if you need an All-Star Game when you get down the road at World Cup 2026, and if there's any merging of these two leagues, I'm not sure you may need that anymore because you've got too many games, and you've also got times where you're not going to have enough time to play an All-Star Game. But you also got to understand, in the 25th year of Major League Soccer, it's still fulfilling a huge part of that sponsorship responsibility. I just think MLS versus Liga MX is going to be, whenever it's done, the best All-Star Game we've ever seen, and especially if that first one's kicked off in Los Angeles.
Taylor, great stuff as always. Thanks for the time. If you want more Taylor, you can check him out on this week's edition of Banter with Taylor Twellman. Among his many guests, U.S. men's national teamer and Schalke midfielder Weston McKennie.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.